What's up, gang? Tim Newbold from OKR Quick Start. I wanted to share a really quick tip video with you. There's probably a whole bunch more that I need to go into, but it's all about how do you close off and reflect on an OKR at the end of the quarter. So to be honest, I need to do a deeper dive on this, but I've just had a question pop up and I thought I'm going to do this short and sharp topic. So why do we need to do a reflection? Well, it's one thing to get through an OKR, but you need to bank the lessons at the end, close off all the learnings, and it helps you think about what's my OKR for the next quarter. Again, you've probably done a bit of pre-planning before this point, but it helps validate, is the next OKR the right thing, or did we just not make enough progress on the quarter before? So in either case, it's really going to help you get that really good, solid, clear piece of clarity on what is most important next. But it's also about learning, how do I improve the process? So is OKR working well for us? Are we checking in weekly? Are we checking in fortnightly? Did we not check in at all? What was the impact of that? So we want to make sure that we can improve the process and continuously refine it. Probably one of the number one things that makes businesses really fail on OKR is they don't improve it from the starting point. They kind of keep returning the wheel and keep moving it forward without actually making any changes. So there's going to be two things that we talk about as part of this. Number one is closing off the OKR, capturing all of our lessons learned against the OKR, but then also looking at the process. And I'm going to share with you just some templates that you can use, and I'll drop some links that you can check out as well. Right, so let's get to it and have a bit of a look at these templates. So number one, this isn't the most exciting, inspiring thing. I know you're looking at it going, that's a bit dry. But what it is a really clear template to capture the objective, the key results, the starting metric, where did you begin, what was the target, and where did you end up landing? And so what we want to know is the sort of starting point, where we came from, where we want to get to, and where did we actually land. Now, we also want to capture there the score. Sometimes you might have a slightly different score than the actual progress. It's a different topic in itself, but the short version is maybe you want to capture the benefits where you've actually really gone above and beyond. So you want to bump up your score a little bit. Or maybe you just had some tailwinds that helped you on your OKR, and therefore, you want to give yourself a bit of a penalty because you probably really should have done better. In either case, you can get that structure and work out what's right for you. What we tend to use there is a score of 0 to 1 and all the points in between that. And our target is 0.7. Now, the reason being is that OKR is about challenging ourselves and being open to a little bit of failure, but also not trying to sandbag our goals and set the bar too low. So that's how we tend to score this. And success is at the 0.7 mark, or 70% achievement. For others, they like to do it at 100%. You've got to work out what's right for you. And again, we've got other content on that, and that's a whole different discussion. So what we asked our team to do is pre-fill all this information. So you should be able to fill out, for the most part, the topics we just discussed: the objective, the key results, the leads, the score based on what it looks like. We want to have all that information all pre-filled. Of course, all where the actual metrics landed. Then I ask each of the leads to fill in this following information. So the key achievements and deliverables, what was the good stuff? What are some of the celebrations we want to take from the OKR? What were some of the challenges and lessons learned? And what's outstanding? Is there anything that we wanted to achieve as a part of this OKR? Or maybe even it was just you wanted to do it, but you didn't get there. Those are the things that we want to capture in this form. And we can then talk about discussions on priorities for the next quarter as well. As part of that, if we realize there's things outstanding, it starts to ask the question, well, okay, do we need to carry that forward into the next quarter? Did we achieve our goal and therefore it's now not needed? Really good, rich discussion that can happen there. So again, each of your key results really should have someone who is a lead or an owner or a champion, depending on what language you use. Doesn't mean they're the only ones doing it in the team, but it means they are the advocates of that key result, making sure it's getting the due attention that it needs. But again, you should have set that at the start. That doesn't happen at the end. But because they're the champions of it, they should be able to fill out these fields, at least in a first sort of pass. Now, when we fill this out, we bring it into the OKR closing ceremony. That also might be part of your OKR setting session as well, depending on how you approach this. You want to make sure you get together as a team and review this and discuss it, and make sure that everyone's aligned. We've banked the lessons learned. We've understood what were some of the challenges and what could we have done better. And then we've also understood what's outstanding. If you'd pre-fill it, it means you get in there and it's a much quicker discussion to really go through all the topics. What we do want to do though is also think about how do we improve. And I'm going to show you two further templates that we use for that. One is, I'm going to go quite quickly through it because it's pretty basic. The other one is actually one I absolutely love and I want to share with you. It's called the Sailboat Retrospective. But let's go through the basic one first and start there. So this is our Miro board. You can also grab this. It's a standard template for OKR setting in Miro. It's a fantastic tool and we really love using this, particularly when you've got distributed teams. But over here we have the starting point, which is our end of OKR review. And you'll see two key sections. This is basically a mirror of what we just saw. It's the same as the Google the Google Slide template that we've got. It has the same sort of information. It's just if you're doing it on Miro, you might as well fill it out here instead. Then we have a bit of a retrospective over here, which is what went well, what didn't go so well, what would we like to do differently next time, and what are the actions we're going to take. And so the way that you facilitate this is you have your team fill out each section, let them write down as many ideas as they like if the team's not too large. If you've got a team of 7 to 10 plus people, if everyone writes down unlimited things, it's going to be quite a lot to get through. So what I like to do is ask people, if it's a large group, just write down 1 or 2 top things on your mind for each sort of category, or maybe it's one thing for each category, which was top of mind for you. And again, what went well? What were some of the things we did on the OKR front that worked? And particularly focusing on process. Maybe it's around the check-ins. Maybe it is around how we did some more experiments with the projects that we're working on, whatever the case might be. What didn't go so well? So what did something that didn't quite work, or we gave something a bit of a shot and it fell flat? Capture that there. And what would you like to do differently next time? I then have a bit of a discussion to say, right, everyone group these into common themes. I get everyone to help me. I don't try and do it myself as a facilitator of one of these sessions. So, maybe there's a whole bunch of things that went really well around the experiments that we're doing. So that might be a good theme that you can bundle up there. And we can basically do this through the whole process. And it gives them some really clear buckets at that point to focus on. We don't need to talk about and read through every single idea that's been put up, because again, it can take a bit too much time if you're not careful. But as long as the themes are there and we understand what they're about, we're looking pretty good. At this point, we can either get people to do dot voting, and literally it might be a case of saying you've got 5 votes, use the marker tool on this thing to just put little dots on the post-it notes or the themes that you want to discuss. Or we could just look at the ones where the biggest number of items under a given theme and say, right, let's talk about those. While we're talking about those, we want to think about what's the action. So if it went really well, we did lots of experiments. Well, okay, what's the action to make sure we keep doing that? So that's where you can take that forward as a bit of an action. Maybe it was something that didn't go so well. So maybe we didn't do any check-ins. We didn't check in on the OKR throughout the quarter, and that meant we missed some of our targets. So, okay, what's the action there? Well, probably doing a regular check-in. So you'd write that down here in one of the actions, and you need to have an owner. That's the other key thing there. All of these, including the Sailboat Retro I'm about to show you, if you don't have an action owner, it ain't going to happen. So make sure someone's going to own it. Even for the good stuff, make sure that someone's championing to make sure that these things are happening. So maybe someone's going to be owning the experiments. Doesn't mean they need to do the experiments, but it might mean that you're going to be keeping a pulse to make sure we have experiments planned and we're running experiments, whatever the case might be. So we go through these 3 items and just work out the top few items. What are those actions? Again, time box this to however much time you've allowed for this. Wonderful if you've got an hour. If you've got less, well, just make do with what you've got. But you work out the right sort of time anyway. Don't leave it as an open-ended thing, because literally you could talk about this sort of stuff for a whole day. So that's one format I want to share with you. If you really want to level up your game, I'm going to show you the Sailboat Retro. Now, the problem with this format is it's really looking backwards. It's not really thinking, well, so much forwards. Like, what are some of the good things that are happening? What are some of the opportunities that we've got to seek? So that's why we use this other template called the Sailboat Retrospective. And of course, it disappears when I start to show it. What it shows is a few different categories. I'm going to run you through these now. So you've sort of got the wind that's driving you forward. This is the stuff in the past that's made life easier. So again, in the same sort of example, it might have been the experiments. We're doing experiments, that was helpful with us. Might have been team collaboration. We're working together nicely on the team. Down here, we've got the anchor. What was the stuff that held us back? So what held us back from being really successful in our goals? Well, maybe it was those weekly check-ins. Those were challenging. Those were things that we didn't do so well. So that's very much the retrospective side of things. So it's looking backwards. And again, the same process, we go through and we fill out this whole sheet, we vote and capture the actions. So you're going to follow the same step as last time, but it's different categories this time. And this is where it's really different. We talk about the sunny future, the bright island. What are the opportunities? What are the good things that are coming up? So, this might be things that we know we've got additional team members coming on. Maybe we know that there's new training coming in on OKRs. Maybe we're getting a new system to manage our OKRs that's going to make life easier. Maybe it's also something around new product improvements that we're planning on doing, or we're getting new tools to deliver our products. Maybe you're introducing some sort of continuous deployments framework or something like that. So there's good stuff coming up. The reason why this is important is it's to help you think about, okay, well, how does that frame our next OKR? If we've got these good things happening, what do we need to consider? Then there's the rocks, the risks. And this is just obviously the opposite. What's the stuff that could go wrong if we're not careful? So here, maybe if we don't do check-ins, we're not going to make progress on our next OKR. Maybe we feel like we haven't quite got our OKR process right, and so it's too heavy and we need to fix that. There's all these sort of things that start coming up. And again, because it's forward-looking, it might be something that you're feeling right now or you see coming up. Again, maybe we've got some OKR ceremonies that maybe we stop doing a playback where everyone runs through their OKRs across the business and gets aligned. Maybe we've canned that session and we see that as a bit of a risk. So this is where you can fill all these sort of things out, which is really, really fantastic. So this is my go-to sort of framework. Again, group into themes, vote on what you think is most important, and then discuss and create actions with clear action owners. But that, in short, is how we close out an OKR. Again, you might do it as a dedicated session, an OKR closeout. You might do it as part of your OKR setting. But as long as you're doing it, this is probably one of the most important parts of OKRs, because even if you set a terrible OKR, and even if you're terrible at checking in on your OKRs, if you get to the end and stop and see how did you actually go, but also what worked and what didn't work, it means that you can improve it for next time and make it better. Anyway, gang, have an amazing rest of your day, and I can't wait to talk to you again soon. I'll do a longer version of this in the future, but for now, I just wanted to quickly get you started. Have an incredible day, and I'll speak to you soon. Peace.